Welcome to Discussing Fitchburg Now. I'm your host, Sam Squalia, and you're watching this thanks to FATV, and it's shot in the Workers Credit Union studios. So thank you so much for watching and tuning in and learning more about what's going on in our area of North Central Massachusetts. So this show, we are talking with Tristan Taylor, the co-founder of Fitchburg Fiber, which is a new telecommunications company.
That's right.
A new internet provider service company right in the heart of downtown Fitchburg.
That's right.
Thanks for coming on, Tristan.
Thanks for having me, Sam.
All right.
Great to be here.
Yeah, so Fitchburg Fiber. Why don't you explain it for the layman?
Yes.
What you do?
So, I mean, when you boil it down, we're just an internet service provider. So to the end user, to your resident or your business user, it's going to look a lot like having any other internet service provider, Comcast, Verizon, Spectrum, whoever's around. We're going to come to your house or your business. We're going to install our equipment, and inside you're going to have a router that has a Wi-Fi transmitter, and it's just going to look and feel very familiar. How we get to your house is a little bit different than your standard ISP. We use short-range wireless radios that have very high capacity. Oh yeah, this is a picture from when we first started. We got a couple demo units. And
this is right on Boulder Drive.
Yeah. We were testing them in the parking lot, so you can see that's the bed of my truck and my laptop hooked up to it. And then
so that's a wireless, a short-range transmitter, a radio.
Yes. Yeah, it's a radio, technically speaking. So what we did that day actually is you can see that we have one on a tripod at the end of the parking lot. And if you know the building, it's the building with river sticks in it. Real big, long parking lot, right? So we just took my truck and drove it, increments of like 100 feet just to see how it would perform. Got it all the way to the end of the parking lot and still had connection. So that's like a good, 800 or 900 feet. But we keep the link range like 500 feet or less. So what that allows us to do is give you gigabit internet over a wireless link. So we don't have to dig up the sidewalk and bury fiber optic cable or copper cable like the other ISPs do. We can just, if you're in our service area, you give us a call or go on our website and submit a form. And you say, hey, I'd like internet. We'll make sure that you're in the service area, and if you are, we come down just as soon as we can, throw up a receiver, which actually, for your standard customer, this is what the receiver is going to look like.
That's what you'd put on like the outside of the building near the electric meter, maybe,
or just wherever we can. So
wherever you can see.
Wherever we can see our
the
transmitter.
The transmitter.
Yeah. So we actually also have another model. I didn't have one on hand to bring by. This one just receives. Receives and transmits, because obviously you have to upload and stuff too. But we have one. It's a little bit bigger. It's in the picture there.
Looks like that.
So what that one does is if the building is in a place where it can see lots of other buildings around it, we'll throw one of those up, and not only will the customer in the building get internet, but then we can also expand our service area by another 500 feet and serve their neighbors.
And these are like 500-foot radiuses.
Yeah, 500-foot circle.
Depending on what it can see.
Exactly. So it's really cool. This was all new to me 3 years ago. I come from a tech background, but this whole wireless networking thing wasn't really my wheelhouse. I started learning about it, made friends at a job with a couple of guys who had done this kind of thing in the past, and we had this harebrained idea like, hey, what if we take, at the time we were just saying a community in central or western Massachusetts, and we bring them, high-speed internet at a low cost, because this allows us to operate at much lower cost than your standard ISP.
Right, you don't have to run cables.
Exactly.
And you don't have to pay for the running cables on Unitil's poles.
Or exactly.
Digging up the pavement. I mean, in downtown Fitchburg, can we show this map on the main screen? See. So these are indications of where Fitchburg Fiber can reach, or where it could reach a few months ago when you shared it on Facebook.
Yeah. So this is a bit outdated, and so there's actually 3 pictures. We'll show all 3 of them. But currently, our service area is kind of down near the Water Street Bridge, right in the middle of Main Street, and up at the Upper Common near First Parish Church. So that's just because that's where we've got customers so far, because everywhere we get a customer, we can typically expand our service area. So our goal for next year is to fill in the gap and cover all of Main Street and Boulder Drive and some of the surrounding areas. So yeah, you can see down here, Water
We
Street
got the
Bridge.
Santander building.
Exactly.
Tacos Tequila.
Yep. So everywhere that has our little logo on it is a building that we can reach.
Or the Crescent Street condominiums.
Yep.
At 50 Day Street.
Yeah.
Right? Or is that Hotel Raymond?
That's Hotel Raymond, 50 Day
Hotel
Street's
Raymond.
up there.
Oh, yeah. So you can, so people at 50 Day Street can access Fitchburg Fiber services?
Theoretically, so in a case of a big building like that, the owners or the manager, obviously in this case it's the housing authority, would need to approach us, and we would figure out the logistics and the terms of entering the building. And then once we do that, we would build out our equipment inside, and then we could plug customers in from inside. Now in a smaller building, like a 1 to 4 family residence, we would just throw up a receiver, plug
And they
in
can all reach it.
Exactly. Typically, we'll put up 1 receiver per building and then have distribution inside the building through more conventional methods.
So you would run a wire from the receiver.
From the roof into the basement or into whatever, telecommunications closet
And then you'd
there
use
is.
your standard wireless router to
Wireless
connect
router
to your
or
computers.
to computers, or if it's a big building, maybe in your apartment building you've seen there's a closet where Comcast's equipment is or Verizon's equipment is, and they have a bunch of wires coming in there, and then it all goes to their one main wire leaving the building. We'd do the same thing, except instead of having a wire leaving the building underground or to the telephone pole, it would go up to the roof where we have our receiver. Now these radios, almost dropped it. These can support like tens of customers on one radio, which when you think about it, that's pretty good.
For considering that thing's only
right,
like 3
only
pounds.
Only ever so big.
Yeah.
And then our other ones can actually support more. The cylindrical ones that we showed earlier. If we were to hook up 50 Day Street, we could feed the entire building off of one of those.
Well, I remember, back in 2010-ish, Mayor Lisa Wong at the time was talking about getting the municipal broadband. And I mean, even though you're a private company, this really feels like that goal.
That's what we're trying to do.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
The goal of getting municipal broadband in the downtown.
Yeah. That's the vibe we were going for when we started this. So I live in Fitchburg. My partners are working on moving to Fitchburg, don't currently right now.
Good job. Get up here.
But we love the community. Obviously, I live here. I went to Fitchburg State, never left. So I have a personal investment in the community as well as a business investment. And just when I started becoming aware of what the situation on Main Street was like, not to badmouth any other companies, but I think it's pretty well known that people aren't super happy with the options available, the quality of service and all that stuff.
Well, DSL is what, they've been using on Main Street.
Yeah.
It's 2022.
And that's a 25-year-old technology. Yeah. It's not great.
And even to access, and even to get Comcast like to City Hall, we needed to pay like $25,000 or $50,000. The Wood Place where Centro was, they needed like a $25,000 CDBG grant just to get access, to get across the street, to get some internet.
Yeah, and the difference with us is, let me think. So you're talking about the building on Wood Place. We can see that from our main office. So, a $500, $800 pair of radios, a little bit of network. I think we could probably hook that building up for $1,500. And that's for like a custom thing like that. Your standard internet customer, where we're just hooking up your house or your business, $100 install fee, that's it. We soak the cost because, it benefits us. We want to keep you as a customer. You're going to pay for that equipment over time. We don't want to saddle you with a big upfront cost. We want to give you good quality service, keep you happy, keep you around long enough to pay for it. And then even longer after that, you'll be supporting us hooking up more customers.
Sounds like a smart business strategy to me, Tristan.
We hope so.
So now that you mentioned it, we have a screen with the pricing.
Yes.
Can we throw up the price? Yeah,
yeah, there we go.
So this is right from the website. Fiber.
FBfiber.net.
FBfiber.net. And you can see just for residential internet, where they can access it. It's a $40 a month fee.
Yes.
And it's $100 to install, or if you pay for the whole year up front, it's a free install.
Free install, exactly.
What a deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they have the availability checker right on their website at, can we put the website on the bottom here? Right there, there we go. FBfiber.net, and you can plug in your address, and you can see if if they can access you. And I assume if they can't, then you'll collect the email and you'll send them an email when you can.
The way it works right now is when you do the check availability, fill out the form, it actually just sends me a message, and I will go in and check the availability. We're working on a map for our website that'll allow you to do like the conventional plug in your address, and it'll just tell you instantly if you're on the network or not, or in the service area. But for now, if you go to check availability, you're going to be talking to me, or you're going to be talking to my partner Andrew directly, because that's how it works. We don't want to be hidden behind a maze of automated call robots or automated emails and stuff like that. I was actually, before I came, I had half an hour to kill before the show, so I went in and visited Josh at the Brake Bike Shop. He's one of our customers.
Oh yeah.
And just checking in on how things are going and stuff. And our uptime, our reliability is very good so far. And we actually
uptime. So that's the time that that the internet's not down.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So you have uptime, you have downtime. Downtime is when there's
downtime when I'm mad. Yes,
exactly. We had a brief unexpected power outage that our backups couldn't handle, and we're actually fixing that right now. We're getting generator hookups put in, so we're not going to have to worry about that in the future. So we're adding even more reliability. But there was an incident, and Josh called me to let me know, hey, my internet's down right now. What's up? And he got me, one phone ring. I pick it up. I'm talking to him. I'm like, hey, man, yeah, this is what's going on. We're expecting it to last this long. Here's what we're doing to fix it right now. He said, okay, great, thanks.
You don't get that from Verizon and Comcast.
And just the way he was talking about it, like, made me really happy, because it's like when we were dreaming up this idea, the whole idea was to be accessible, to be friendly, to be the guy, the ISP owner who just walks into his customer's shop, says hi. I apologize, I'm probably going to butcher the Spanish, but Mi Rinconcito Salvadoreño on Main Street.
Oh yeah. That's where my husband gets all his fancy soda.
Yes.
His real sugar soda.
Yes. We hooked them up a few months ago, and I go in there every chance I get. They have these like neat little candies and all the
like
sodas and
Salvadorian
stuff.
Candy.
Yes. I had to rein in the budget a little bit. I was going there like every day or two and buying, just $5 worth of sweets, and well, you can see where that went.
Yeah. My spouse probably gained 10 pounds in soda. Hey, they gotta do.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, even right here, we have our team on the website. These are the faces you're going to see come do an installation.
Who's Andrew's dog?
That's Opie. She's our chief installer. Anytime we can, we actually do bring her to installs.
She's security.
Oh yeah. She's a really sweet dog. We love having her around the office and at job sites when we can.
And you can see if you're looking for more information, you can go to info@fbfiber.net.
Yeah. Send us an email, give us a call. Do that check availability thing on the website. Yeah, we want to be as transparent and accessible as possible.
So Tristan, let me ask you, for the internet coverage, right?
Yes.
So I have Verizon at my house, and I pay for, I don't know, what do I pay for, a gigabit or whatever. But when I actually go to check, like, my download speed, it's never a gigabit. It's like 200 megabytes per second or whatever.
That's pretty low.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But whatever it is, it doesn't never seems to be what I'm paying for.
So that's a really common thing.
How does that work?
So Verizon, Comcast, us, every internet service provider has so much bandwidth that they can provide at any given time.
So when other people are using it.
Exactly. So if you're checking your speeds during the Pats game when everybody's streaming it on whatever service they're streaming on, your speeds are going to be a little bit slower because the network's under heavy usage. We talk about peak and off-peak hours. So typically between 8 and 10 p.m. or like 6 and 11 p.m. if you're being liberal with it, you're going to see higher network traffic. So if you're checking your speeds during those times, even with us, you're going to see that they're a little bit lower.
So the busy time for internet is between 6 and 10 p.m.
When people get off work and they're playing video games, watching TV, listening to music, all that stuff. So I think the lowest speed we've had a customer report to us was like 650 megabits per second. And that
sounds pretty fast.
It's still more than you need because get this, we've been advertised to, marketed to for 25 years to believe that bandwidth is the biggest part of internet speed because it used to be. When we were dealing with copper cables and everything like that, bandwidth is like the diameter of the pipe. The more you can cram into the pipe at once, the more that's going to come out the other end. But nowadays, everybody can offer gigabit speeds and bandwidth, but how long does it actually take for your request to Netflix.com to travel to Boston, where the server is, and come back to you with, your video, or the little tiny piece of the video that each packet brings back? That's called latency.
Latency.
Yeah, and it's usually measured in milliseconds.
And that's the buffer time.
Exactly. Well, yeah. It shakes out as buffer time when you're as far as user experience goes. So our typical latency is like 8 to 10 milliseconds, sometimes lower. The best I've ever gotten on Verizon was 18 or 20. So.
But that's because you're so hyper local, right?
Right. Exactly. And we have a direct pipe to Boston. So.
A direct pipe to Boston.
Our fiber optic connection comes to us, and then your internet request will travel along so we buy internet from somebody, we then sell internet locally. Our connection goes straight to Boston, where Verizon's or Comcast's has to travel through a big loop that passes through all the other towns in the area. And so it's just a little bit shorter physical distance for our connection. So we're able to have lower latency, or if you play video games, you might hear it called ping. And what that means is if our connection is 500 megabits per second with 10 milliseconds of latency, Verizon's connection is 1,000 megabits per second at 20 milliseconds, the user's going to have the same perceived speed because they can send less at once on our connection, but it gets there and back twice as fast. Now, realistically, most of our customers, most of the time, will get a full gigabit and the low latency. So that's all. I'm getting a little too technical here, but sorry about that to the viewers. But suffice to say that we offer the bandwidth, but we also have better latency than most of our competition. So tech-savvy customers of ours have already been and will continue to be happy with that.
So the current pricing is $40 a month.
$40 a month, that's right.
And if you pay for a whole year, then it's free install. So that's just straight up $40 a month. And I know, that you can't get internet from Comcast to Verizon at the high speeds.
Right. They run deals for a smaller, I think at my house, I can't reach my house because I'm over on the other side of town. So we have Verizon at home, and I think we're paying like $35 a month for 300 megabits per second. But Fitchburg Fiber will always be $40 a month for a gigabit. Someday we're hoping we can even lower the prices, but right now that's just what we need to make ends meet.
So, that was the segue to my next question.
Oh, yeah.
Where do you anticipate the network expanding to?
The network will expand where willing partners show up. So we want to get into the big apartment complexes over on River Street, for instance. We haven't had a lot of luck speaking with the management so far, and that's our blocker there. But when it comes to like residential neighborhoods, it's just people continue. We get like 3 or 4, 5 people every week that contact us. Hey, can you get internet to my house? And right now it's a bummer because we're only downtown. A lot of these folks, we have to say, no, we're so sorry, we can't. But people need to keep reaching out because as soon as one shows up that is in our service area, not only can we get them internet, but then we can set their house up as the point where we can then serve their neighbors. And then
so you kind of gotta build the network down the street.
Exactly.
So okay, so I've got a point here, and you're all the way over here, so we need to get a couple of your neighbors.
Right. And because the reason for that is because we're not using Unitil's poles, we can't walk up to somebody's house and say, you're going to let us put this up here so that we can serve this neighborhood. It's just not how it works. We need them to come to us. Or, sometimes we will approach people and say, hey, can we make a deal? But most of it's going to be just people reaching out, and it happens to work, and then we grow from there.
So why don't we use Unitil's poles?
Because we're not deploying fiber everywhere. So it just doesn't make sense to put our radios on a pole. And I won't get too far into why, but issues of power supply, cost, everything like that, it just doesn't work with our current business model. And realistically, we love to dream big. We love to dream of the day that we'll have coverage for all of Fitchburg, because eventually we are going to start deploying fiber optic cable. That's just an extremely expensive endeavor. So to keep
Need to get some
low,
capital first.
Exactly. And downtown is where the most need is. So one competitive ISP, several still running DSL like you mentioned, it doesn't really make for a healthy business environment for the businesses, for the residents, for everything, like for all the impacted people. When your only option is Comcast, they're going to charge through the roof, and they're not going to worry that much about quality of service. So we picked downtown because that's where the need is. So we're focusing on that at the expense of growing our service area to make sure that we can help out downtown. And then once that's fully built out, once that's stable, we can start thinking more about where we're going to grow from there.
So on that note, I believe it was probably about 5 or 6 years ago, we got some funding, I think, from Senator Flanagan from the State House to, provide internet coverage to Tacos Tequila, which was Beamer's at the time, and to Airport Road, because there were segments of Airport Road that had no high-speed internet either. So I'm not sure exactly, the reach on Airport Road, if we provided everything we needed to them. Has that come up in any of your discussions?
We've had some people reach out from Airport Road. Obviously, that's very far outside our current service area.
Right.
So I think there is still some issue over there. And I've said at every opportunity I get, I give a lot of credit to the city for pulling that off a few years ago, because the need was even more obvious and the situation was even more abysmal than it is now. So that was a really good stopgap. That was a really good move, in my opinion. I wish we had been there to be the ones to do it, because I think we could have done it better. But it was the reality on the ground at the time. And now we're here to kind of fill in the gap. Mm-hmm.
So the future running fiber optic cable, how does that work? Would you run it on Unitil's poles?
We would prefer to bury it. That's complicated in an urban environment. So it can cost hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars, depending on how far you're if you're in an area where there's no poles, you have to dig up the sidewalk or dig up the street to run cable. You can be looking at as much as $1,000 a foot to bury fiber optic cable. That is very, very high, but I've seen that number thrown around by other ISPs, like, oh geez, I had to do this. So that's why we're focusing on this wireless distribution model downtown, because even if we could secure the capital to do that, we'd have to charge people a lot of money for the internet. So when we can offer just as good quality of service for a tiny fraction of the price, of course we're going to do that, because that's why we're here.
What about for future technology? Right,
Yeah.
Like 15 years ago, this technology wasn't necessarily available.
It was a pipe dream.
Yeah, it was. Oh, we could have municipal internet with routers that run it, and here we are. So what about future technology? 10 years in the future, 5 years in the future. Will we be able to have more reach without being able to have direct visual contact, maybe?
Direct visual contact, or not having to have direct visual contact, that's going to be trickier, because that's actually an older technology, is providing service without line of sight, but it's a lot lower speeds. So to provide service that has the speeds and quality that people expect nowadays, you need line of sight. But actually, Andrew and I were sitting in the office today talking about this very thing, like what happens when that crazy new technology that we can only dream of right now is a reality in 15 years. And we're so new, we're so small, we're able to think, talk, plan to stay nimble. So
To
that
remobilize.
Exactly, so that when new technology comes out, we can adapt to that. We can be the provider of that new technology rather than being stuck on what will then be 15-year-old technology. We don't want to be the guys that some new startup is saying, oh, look at these old fuddy-duddies. Like they're using 60 gigahertz wireless, grandpa. Like, no, we don't want that. We want to stay modern. We want to stay with the newest tech.
So now, speaking of the technology, Comcast or Verizon or maybe both were talking about employing 5G towers. Is that the technology we're talking about, or is this a different technology?
5G is a complicated subject, and as I understand it, it's kind of loosely defined. 5G uses it's a wide chunk of the radio spectrum. So I think it goes as low as like 24 gigahertz all the way up near 60 gigahertz, which is where we operate. Your characteristics and quality of service and the performance of those technologies is going to vary widely depending on what piece of 5G transmitter equipment a given carrier actually deploys. So you'll see on Verizon's website they have they have 5G, but now they're talking about 5G ultra wideband, and the 5G ultra wideband is only available in Boston, Hartford, a handful of other places, and that's I would say the most competitive with what we do, because that does allow somebody to just get a puck in their house that offers near gigabit speeds, but that technology,
that's like the hotspot.
Yeah, but it's like Hotspot 2.0. It can actually perform how a modern internet user expects it to. As I understand it, and a lot of that's closely guarded trade secrets, but as I understand it, that technology requires the same density of deployment as ours does.
Right, yeah,
So,
they need a lot of 5G transmitters on neighborhood poles.
Exactly. So I don't see Verizon, especially not in downtown Fitchburg, bothering to deploy at that density. So I think what they're probably going to end up doing is, they're going to upgrade to 5G. I think they've already started. You're going to be able to get maybe 400 or 500 megabits per second download speeds. But what you'll notice is asymmetrical upload speeds. So you can download a lot, but if you're trying to do a Zoom call and you need to upload, your speeds aren't going to be matching that 500.
Asymmetrical, so my download will be high, but my upload will take longer.
Exactly.
Like it does now.
Kind of, yeah.
Isn't that how it is now?
That's pretty standard with Comcast's equipment as well, just because it's just the nature of the technology that they're using. Getting symmetrical speeds is hard. And that's a calculated decision they've made. I'm not bashing them for it. They only have so much capacity, and most people really only care about download speeds because you're just streaming Netflix or YouTube or whatever, so you only care about taking in data. But now, in the age of the pandemic, everyone's working from home, everyone's at school on home, so all of a sudden upload speeds are a much bigger need, which is where we come into play. And I think where we're going to stay competitive is, even though we're doing this wireless model, we can offer symmetrical speeds.
And so your technology is not 5G.
No.
It's a radio.
It's in this. I would say it's in the same league as 5G. Basically all telecommunications equipment is radio or light when it comes down to it.
So like fiber optic.
Fiber optics, with light, or radio with wireless transmission. Because even Comcast copper cable, that's just electromagnetic frequency across a cable.
That's a radio frequency.
You could call it that. It's electricity. It's all just electricity or light. But yeah. So your question is what we're doing 5G. So I'd say we're in the same league, but we're a different team. We're using different tech, but we're still competing in that space.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That was Pretty tech heavy.
I apologize again.
Well, I think we got the gist.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And if you have questions, reach out to us at info.fbfiber.net and I'll be happy to answer them.
And can we put the website there once again over there, right down there? There we go. fbfiber.net. You can check out the website and you can see all the information about
Yes.
what's going on there and see if you're interested in Fitchburg Fiber's service.
Yes.
And you can learn more about all the founders as well in the
Yes.
About Me section.
Yes, pay special attention to the cute dog.
Security dog.
Yes.
So all right, Tristan. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. I
And
really appreciate it.
teaching us a little bit more about how the wireless internet works.
And again, I apologize for getting so tech heavy. It's my language now.
we
It's
appreciate
hard to get out of it.
I'm sure a lot of people out there gets it.
I hope so.
All
I
right.
hope so. And yeah, seriously, if you have any questions, we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Instagram. We're not super active on them yet. We should be. But yeah, I mean, even just feel free to email us with questions about service area, about what we're doing. If you want to know when we think we might get to your neighborhood, we can try to ballpark that. If you're over on the other side of Rollstone Hill, it's going to be a while, but
It's a big block.
but we want to know who's interested. We want to know where the need is so that we can plan those future expansions too.
Oh yeah, and the more data that you have, the more info that you can
Exactly. We
you
want to
can
be able to
plan
make
for expansion.
We want to make informed decisions.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Tristan Taylor, co-founder of Fitchburg Fiber. And thank you for watching at home, discussing Fitchburg Now, learning a little bit more about what's going on in our community. All right, we'll see ya.